We are now live, so we have the backup file, and here we go.
Cool.
Whenever you are ready.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Tosche Station, the young folks' official Star Wars podcast where our rebellion is built on hope. We're your hosts. I'm Jordan Decker.
And I'm Alex Suffolk, and this is arguably one of our biggest episodes yet. Obviously, Rogue One has just hit theaters. We've both seen it. We're ready to talk about it. It's here. And we've been talking about this for a year, and here we finally are. So let's just get right into it.
I'm very excited. So
yeah, we're
Alex,
both just kind of like buzzing, like, oh my god, it finally happened. It finally happened.
I know it started with analyzing that first trailer, like, oh my god, an AT-AT is just walking around. What's going on in that scene? And now that's like the seventh most important thing to talk about in Rogue One.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Actually, it's interesting that like the first trailer that we analyzed so much, like a lot of those shots aren't actually in the final film.
Yeah, and lines, not all the lines.
Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, we're just buzzing with excitement. There's just so much that happened with it. Like it really is like a gift to the fans as terms of like what kind of things they throw in there, what kind of like references, callbacks. But yeah. So like before we dive into the real like heart of it and the real spoiler territory, let's just do like a general thing for like. So Jordan, what do you think of Rogue One now that we've finally seen it? It's finally hit theaters. What do you think?
General thing. Okay, here we go. I was immensely satisfied with Rogue One. It did everything I wanted to. I didn't think it was completely perfect, but no movie really is. I went and saw it with my mom, who introduced me to Star Wars, and some other family, and it was just my theater was having a blast with it, and I was with them on that. Yeah. How about you?
I also had a ton of fun with this movie. I agree. It is not perfect. It's not as good as I was like hoping it to be. But then again, like you're always hoping for like above and beyond with Star Wars. And I think most of its weakness comes in the first act. It's a little choppy. I think the fact that there were so many reshoots, I think you can tell. But even then, like that third act makes up like for everything in my mind. It's still fun. It's still in Star Wars, and I feel like it still does the world of Star Wars justice. So for me, I was able to overlook a lot of the flaws that some people had with the movie. Like overall, yeah, solid fun. Loved it. Can't wait to see it again.
Yes, and we will get into more of the things we liked and more of those specific things that you and I did not like. But for now, we are issuing a solid spoiler warning. If you have not seen Rogue One, I don't know why you're listening to a podcast with that in the title and an all Star Wars podcast. You're a weird person. So you've seen it. Spoiler warning. Here we go. Alex, our first question that we have slated here is, what did you think of the story of the movie and the characters of the movie? Maybe you want to mention the main heroes. Maybe you want to mention the villain.
Right. Okay. So for the story, I bet you're happy, first of all, because you called this from the beginning that this was the story of how the Death Star got its fatal flaw. And
yeah, buddy, I sure did.
As soon as I saw like Galen's hologram and he's talking about like, yeah, I hate the Empire, so I built this thing that they're never going to find. It's how you blow it up. And I was like, all right, damn, all right. I bet Jordan's like dancing in his seat right now.
Yep, it was very gratifying. I had the dopamine response in my brain, like I'm such a genius.
I did it. I knew it. But I really did like that. I liked that theory because I thought it retroactively makes the other movies better. And that's one thing I liked about Rogue One is that there was parts of it that really sort of just blend right nicely into A New Hope in like the best possible way. Like, oh, that Vader scene at the end and like seeing him pursue Leia and like the ships fly off near the end of the movie. It all sort of blended together really nicely. It enhanced the original movies. So I really liked that. I really liked the aspect, like the Kyber crystals and how well. I know that's like sort of a small detail, but I really liked it that like that's what powers the Death Star, and it's sort of it sort of like brings like verisimilitude of the empire of the galaxy, and like sort of ties everything together in a nice way. It just goes to show how evil the Empire really is. Like it wasn't enough to just destroy the Jedi. They now like cannibalize what they deem holy to cause all their destruction. So I like the little details like that and like the world building and the connective tissues between them. So yeah, overall the story was solid. Again, the pacing was a little off with like Saw Gerrera and his connection to the Ersos. We'll get into more of that like with our critiques. But the characters, oh my god, the characters. There's so many. And like obviously Jen Erso, Felicity Jones knocks it out of the park with Jen Erso. I think they did a good job of showing her being like able to fend for herself, but she also sort of has like some vulnerabilities, some things she really cares about. Obviously, I thought they really nailed the connection to her father. You know, when she's tearing up seeing the hologram again, and when she meets him that one final time before he dies, I thought that was well done. Chirrut Imwe was fantastic. I loved watching him. I knew that he'd have sort of this thing with Baze Malbus where he's like, oh, the Force is guiding us. And Baze is like, no, I am. There was like literally a line about that. Like, the Force protects me. No, I protect you. I loved that. And then obviously when Chirrut dies, then it's Baze who's like, the Force is with me. And he sort of learns from his friend. I thought that was executed really well. And K2SO called it, was the best, was my favorite. God, every line out of Alan Tudyk was just gold. And I loved like the comedic timing, the sort of sardonic, just blurting whatever comes to his head. Watching him blast away the stormtroopers in the end with a pistol, that was good. And Krennic, so God, just running through them all. Krennic, I really liked him as well. I really liked how complex they had him, because like on the one hand, he's like a ruthless bastard. You know, he's just cold-hearted, just shoot her. Okay, like bring out the scientists. Galen like confesses, okay, shoot them anyway. So like he's evil, but at the same time, you almost feel bad for him because like Tarkin and Vader just treat him like he's a child and just like take whatever he builds. And so I had complex feelings with him, and like I'm glad that he wasn't just a total cartoon villain, but he also wasn't like not scary. I thought they had a good balance with him. So that's my ramble, Jordan. What is your ramble on the characters in the story?
Just to immediately talk about your point there, I think I liked what I liked about Krennic was, to me, Star Wars has now started to introduce a really interesting class of villain where, just like Kylo Ren, I feel like Krennic is a tryhard. He wants to come across much more intimidating and much more like he has his shit together than he actually does. And watching him sort of squirm and try to attain something that he is like really not capable of attaining makes him interesting. It makes him more threatening because you realize that this person will go to great lengths to prove themselves. And whereas Vader, he is intimidating, and that's where his threatening begins and ends. But these new villains, they're kind of more unstable. They're more insane in a way because of their ambitions. And I thought that was really cool.
They're more human, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that was also sold to me by the fact that he even like the way he talked and the way he looked didn't seem classic. It didn't seem Tarkin-y, for lack of a better word. His I read an interview about the accent that he had in the film. It's still an English accent, but it's not an aristocratic English accent. And his costume is like white, but it's not totally white. It's kind of dirty. And his hair, it doesn't have like any grease or like slick in it. It's just sort of like messy. Like he's constantly like frustrated and trying to make his missions happen. So all little details that made him like it made his story much more interesting. And let's see, my ramble. The next thing I thought about. I also I liked the Kyber crystal thing, like you were saying too, because it makes a lot more sense to me now that in Star Wars, two of the things that we know are incredibly powerful are coming from the same supernatural source. So now we don't have to sit here and think like, wait, they have a technology that can just somehow blow up a planet, and then also a separate technology that can cut people's arms off. It's the same technology. It's the same power. Death Star, incredibly powerful. Lightsaber is incredibly powerful, just being used very, very differently.
And one thing I found interesting is that like Chirrut says that like the hottest stars or the hottest planets or something have a core of Kyber. So it also makes me wonder if like in Force Awakens, when the Starkiller base absorbs a star. It's taking its kyber out of its core directly, and then using that to blow up the other planets.
I can totally see that. I think that would make a lot of sense if they reveal that in some novel that's what was going on with Starkiller.
So yeah, it's cool that the kyber is like what powers everything, super powered.
Yeah. And then coming full circle to that prediction that I had, when I was watching it in the movie, I had that first reaction that you probably thought I'd have, which is, yeah, I'm so cool. I guessed this. But then at the beginning of the movie, I started to get worried. Like, wait, like, actually, I didn't think about this, but this might not make a whole lot of sense. Like, if I'm supposed to believe that that Galen Erso helped build the Death Star, but also that he was being forced to do it, how am I still supposed to think he's a good person when he just did this anyway? Like, if he was a good person, wouldn't he have rather died than build something so horrible? And I was just sitting there thinking that, and then the movie almost heard my question, and later that's actually answered. I forget how it's revealed, but Jyn Erso basically figures out he wanted to not build it, but then he realized that if he didn't, they would build it without him.
Yeah.
And he said, if anyone's going to build it, I'm going to do it, put the weakness in, and rely on somebody else destroying it. But if I wasn't involved at all, they would have zero chance. So he basically sacrificed his entire life just to do the right thing.
Yeah, which is really noble, and it actually does make sense if you think about it, because the Empire does build it again without him, and Return of the Jedi. So I think it was kind of genius how they kind of played that and how they played his deception. I thought it was really smart.
And then I wanted to bounce this off you, see if you liked it too. I really dug the depiction of the rebellion.
Yes.
It was a lot more complex than I thought. And I thought that was mostly going to come in terms of Saw Gerrera, but because his role was kind of limited, it actually ended up coming in with Cassian in a lot of ways. And you mentioned that because you saw the preview, and I'm wanting to ask you, what scenes did they show you in particular that made you really start questioning like whether Cassian was a good egg or a bad egg?
Oh, well, we saw like the first 16 minutes where he's like talking to that guy on that meteor planet. And he's asking him, like, do you have information about Saw? Like the guy with like the one arm. And he's like, I can't climb out of here. He's like, don't worry, we'll be okay. And he just guns him down.
Yeah.
And then like he like shoots like one of Saw's guys because he sees him with a grenade about to hit Jyn in like the crossfires. So like you're right. I think Cassian Andor was like the perfect window into seeing the like seedier side, the more not edgy, but like more violent, more unstable, more ragtag, more dirty side of the rebellion. And it, because like when you watch it in A New Hope, the rebellion is like these like holy warriors, these underdogs who are all for justice. And then like you watch Rogue One and you realize that like just to pull off like these like feats of justice and to bring about good in the world, sometimes you need people that are a little bit more dirty. Like, and I like that they brought that up.
Yeah. Like they really made you go back and forth with him and Jyn and their philosophies. I really liked his line where she was like getting on his case and he was like, hey, I've literally been fighting in a war since I was 6 years old. And that really like was a gut punch because everything made sense. Every time they asked him to kill Saw Gerrera and then kill Mads Mikkelsen, I was like, I get that that's probably not the best thing to do, but also I understand why with the information they have, that sounds like a good idea. And the thing that really I was so surprised that they chose to make this decision was in Rogue One's story, the rebellion is literally dissembling before Jyn takes her team to go do the mission anyway. The only reason they stay as a rebellion is because after Jyn directly disobeys them, they like a fringe part of them decides, okay, we have to support them. But before that, they're completely not wanting to do it. They don't think the risk is going to be worth it. And it's like Bail Organa is like one of the only ones that actually is like thinks this is all going to still happen. He's like, I trust Leia. I trust her with my life. I know that like these people are probably telling the truth about the plans because why the hell would this? Why would they lie about this? Did you think that was interesting too? How the rebellion were kind of assholes at the end?
Yeah, I think, like I said, like we feel like when you watch the original trilogy, you feel like the rebellion is like this like infallible thing that it's like it's super powerful and it's like it poses a real threat to the Empire. And like while it does, like Rogue One really reminds you, like, no, these guys are the underdogs. They've always been the underdogs up until it's like it's the will of the Force. It's sheer happenstance that they're able to succeed at all because they weren't even in a position to even consider succeeding. It's like that's how powerful the Empire is. And I think that's the other good thing is that, like, we make fun of stormtroopers for not being able to hit anything. They hit a lot of stuff in this movie. And so like in sort of like the threats of the Empire is a little diminished sometimes when you just focus on like the Skywalker and Han Solo running around. But you watch Rogue One and you see how weak and disassembled the rebellion is, and you see how strong and unified the Empire is, and you really get a better feel of the stakes. And like I said, that goes to helping retroactively make the original movies better.
And I feel like that's a good segue into our next discussion about Rogue One, because you were just talking about the battles and the stakes. So, Alex, what did you think of the CGI, all the effects in the movie, and specifically the action, like all the scenes of intense war action?
Oh, it was great. Like we said, we always like this movie feels like a war movie, and that's really what it feels like. It feels there are times like you almost forget you're watching Star Wars in a way because you're so used to watching like these like invincible Jedi heroes move through the blaster fire and whatever, and they're going to be okay. You watch Rogue One, you see all the lasers fly, and they feel much more deadly because any one of them can be the end of any of the characters. It feels much more like a war film in that way. Like the skirmishes, people like ducking and taking cover and seeing all the explosions and bits of debris flying everywhere. Like, my God, like this, I didn't expect there to be such a big space battle, but that was really cool seeing that near the end of Scarif.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Oh my God, I loved that new ship, the Hammerhead, that thing that just like rammed one Star Destroyer into the other.
I was so confused as to what was going on there. I was like, at first I thought they were kamikazing into the ship, but then it didn't blow up. It just sort of sat there, and then I was like, all right. And then the propulsion goes on, and so remind me again. It pushed one Star Destroyer into another Star Destroyer, sliced it in half, and then that fell into the base, which disabled the shield.
Yes, that is exactly.
That's exactly what I would have done in that scenario.
That is like, it makes me wonder, like, where were those ships? Like, why couldn't they just like push every other ship into like the other Death Star?
Yeah, it's a war-breaking tactic. They discovered it like at the very beginning, and they forgot to use it. Shame.
Just like all this evolution of war and all these spaceships goes all the way just full circle back to like the shield wall of the Greeks.
Oh God, I was gonna say something about the action. The chaos of all the shootouts in the movie. It was just little moments, but things like some of the rebel soldiers running away from fire on Scarif, and then just one guy just gets killed by like a death trooper or something, and then his friend's like, no, and then he gets killed. I was like, oh, that's like so sad. It's like the Ewoks. And then when they're deciding who's gonna pull the switch, and the guy's like, I'll do it, and then he just dies. Like those are things that Star Wars hasn't really had before, and it just makes you realize that no one is safe. And spoiler alert, no one is safe. Everyone dies, like we kind of predicted.
Yeah. So, and you're right. Like, I think that really cements the war film. That anyone's like, I'll be the hero, and they just die. Like, that's something that, like, Game of Thrones tries to do, and we never really saw that in Star Wars. The sort of the weight of a war. It's not this like thing where we watch our heroes do triumphant things. No, it's just mass amounts of people dying left and right. Yeah. And like watching like Donnie Yen die or Chirrut Imwe die in that scene, he succeeds in pulling the thing, but then he goes right after. Baze Malbus has his epic last stand, but he goes. K2SO has an epic last stand, but he goes. It's just like, and then even in the end, even if they like survive, the Death Star tests one more time, blows up the whole place. Like that's war. That is war. And so, yeah, I thought it looked great. It was exciting the entire time, and it really cemented the stakes of fighting in a war in this universe.
They really cemented the World War II nuclear analogy too, because I was not
Yeah,
expecting the pre-planet destroying Death Star laser effect to look and sound and feel so much like a nuclear detonation, but
yeah,
it was supposed to be imagery like that because we already talked about building the Death Star with scientists and stuff is a bit like Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project, and then Scarif is kind of supposed to look like D-Day, storming a beach. And then
hmm
once Jeddah gets destroyed and that entire base on Scarif, it definitely cements it. Like they're just sitting on the beach and the shockwave is just slowly coming towards them, and it
yeah,
envelops them. Presumably, they just die immediately. And I was like,
hmm
this is PG-13, and like a lot of families are still going to go to this because it's Star
yeah.
Wars. If only because of moments like that, I was questioning. I was like, I think a kid would be pretty terrified by this. Actually, like
hmm
it's dark. It doesn't end happily. I mean, they succeed in their mission, but they die in some of the most brutal ways anyone's ever died in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think like a lot of people are like, oh, they're changing the ending. They're going to make it so much lighter. They're going to make it so much whatever. And like, no, the ending is still dark. Well, I admit they probably did change things. Like you watch some of the trailers and like there's that shot of like the TIE fighter coming up to Jyn when she's on the walkway. That doesn't happen in the final cut of the movie.
Hmm.
But like it's still, regardless, whatever they changed, they didn't change how dark and gritty the ending was. So, hate all you want. Like they still know what they're doing. They still kind of stuck to their guns on this one.
And I couldn't tell you. Oh, that's funny. That could be a double entendre.
Aha.
And like you said when you saw the preview, I couldn't tell you which scenes were a reshoot. I honestly, they for all the drama, every clickbaity headline about 40% of it got reshot. They
Mhm.
made a very cohesive feeling product, in my opinion.
I feel like the first act feels a little. That's where I feel it the most. I don't know if it's just because
Hmm.
like they're jumping between all the different planets, and then I think Saw Gerrera. If you had to pick like one character that like feels the most like mishandled by reshoots or restructuring or whatever, it's probably him.
Yeah, let's go. We're already kind of getting into it. Let's go into our
Yeah,
least favorite aspects of the movie. We're gonna talk more good, positive stuff later, but yeah, Alex, continue your thoughts. Saw Gerrera.
yeah. So that I think if I had to, like I said, the choppiness and the sort of like when last time we said like our like fears about Rogue One, and I said my number one, like it feels kind of too thinly spread out between all the characters. They don't get all the characterization that they can, because that's what happens in team up movies, regardless. And I think Rogue One sort of falls prey to that as well. I would have liked to see a little bit more of like Chirrut and Baze's like backstory. I would have liked to know a little bit more how like the Ersos connect to Saw. And I know that's in like the Catalyst book, but like I haven't done that homework, so it would have been good just to see a little bit more of it in the movie itself.
Hmm.
But I think Saw has like the most felt like the loosest end to me in the movie. Um, like just thinking about it, like so Galen sends Bodhi to Saw to defect, but then like also the rebellion wants to get Saw back into the Empire or back into the rebellion, so that's why they get Jyn, because she knows Galen, who's sending a guy to Saw. And I felt just a little like, a little like sort of like forced to connect in a way. And if like you watch like the original trailers and there's like that speech he gives Jyn, like, what will you become? And that's gone. I think the original vision for Saw was much more different because it bounced off of a different version of Jyn, maybe. Like, the whole like I rebel line was cut. I feel like they might have changed some of like her nature a little bit, and therefore Saw had to change. And so, and I feel like, I was like thinking about it, like if I had to like critique the movie, I'd almost say like cut out Saw entirely. I mean, obviously I love that he's there because it's Forrest Whitaker and it ties to the Clone Wars, but I feel like they could have just had like Galen send Bodhi to like, just the main force of the rebellion. And then like we could have used, instead of running to Jeddah and having stuff happen there and then running back to the rebellion, they could have just like kind of picked up right there. We got more screen time for some of the other characters. So I think while it isn't bad, and then like there's like the tentacle monster that Saw has in his backyard that like mind warps Bodhi, but then like, and then he's a little like shooken up, but then after he's shooken up, like for a scene, it kind of wears away. And that I would have liked to see
The Rathtar kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, the pre-Rathtar, whatever that.
Rathtar's mom. Ooh, it's a
What-
Rathtar origin story. They wove it so seamlessly into Rogue One.
Oh my god.
Rathtar parentage theory. Let's do an
Rath
episode on it.
Rathtar origins. Um, yeah, and so I think Bodhi should have gotten some more screen time because he just like explodes, and then that's sort of it for him. I would have liked to see a little bit more about like why Galen like spoke to him, why he decided to take this on to defect. So I feel like there's little things. Like I think the movie's really fast paced and like it wants to get going to the action, and it's some things sort of forced together. And it's sort of like it does that like that planet hop thing where like it'll show a planet and like has like the name of it, and then skips to another one after 3 minutes later and shows that one, and then it skips to another one, and then we don't see those planets ever again. So it's like I don't know. So yeah,
Captain America Civil War with the gigantic location tags.
Yeah, Queens, the Bronx.
Yeah.
So I think like I said, I think it was a little choppy, a little thinly spread out. That was I still had fun with it though.
Yeah, I want to bounce off that before you say any more because it's like I think I had a similar feeling about Saw Gerrera as I ended up feeling about Jared Leto as the Joker, where I was like, this is so cool, like cool that they're getting this actor, cool that they're bringing this character in from the Clone Wars, and all the stuff was getting written about it, and like we were psyched about the role that he was going to have. But ultimately the role ended up being very small, and I kind of had to check myself when I was leaving the theater. Like, I guess they didn't promise me that he was going to have a humongous role. We just sort of read into that because of the Clone Wars tie-in. So I can kind of see both sides of it, but you're right. Specifically, I would have liked to see more scenes of young Jyn Erso being raised by him, if only just brief flashbacks. Because I was just thinking, I love the dynamic of in movies and TV, recently orphaned children that get adopted by like cool new like mentors or whatever it is. Like I was thinking of, I mean, that happened like Tarzan, he gets raised by the apes. I was specifically thinking of Daredevil when his dad dies, and then it's like my life sucks, but like, oh my god, who is this crazy like awesome warrior guy who's going to teach me how to still be like optimistic? And I thought that was going to happen when like the hatch opens up and he's standing up there. I was like, great, like that's so cool. I didn't even think that he could be like a father figure to her. But that kind of all happened off screen. I'm sure scenes were deleted and changed around. So yeah, I agree that I would have liked some more about Saw Gerrera. It's not a deal breaker, but I agree. Yeah.
So what do you think about Tarkin? I know that for a lot of people, that's what took them out of the movie.
I was reading articles that are saying like it's disrespectful to Peter Cushing. Like, what precedent does this set where we can just revive dead people and like put them in movies? And I get it. I get that kind of like grand scale criticism, but more immediately, I just didn't really buy it. I didn't. If he was just, here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought Krennic was going to walk into that scene and Tarkin was going to be facing the window and be so in command that he doesn't even turn around. And CGI has gotten to a point where if we just see him in the reflection a little bit, you could think that's totally him. What I didn't think was that he was going to turn around, have that scene, and then like 4 more scenes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Saw Gerrera thing. On one hand, I respect the balls that they had to attempt to put Tarkin in this movie in a prominent role. I get why they did it too, because Gareth Edwards and everyone is saying like, we did it because if he wasn't in the movie at all and he wasn't being involved immediately in the Death Star, that wouldn't make any sense canonically. And like, you would probably all also complain about that. Like, where was Tarkin? But yeah, I respect it, but didn't think it was believable, especially in his scenes with Krennic, who was being acted by a very real human being. If we just saw Tarkin by himself and the room was like cloudy or whatever, you could suspend your disbelief a little bit more, but it was very uncanny valley for me. Yeah. Do you feel differently?
So I don't know. I'm on the fence about Tarkin. Because like on the one hand, yeah, I think uncanny valley is a good way to describe it. I think you're right. It would have been like aesthetically, it would have just been better to see his like face in the reflection. He's just there, but but I was also laughing at the idea, like, oh, can we just like animate anybody now? Like all these dead actors. It's like leave it to Hollywood. One day we're just gonna like bring like let's just put Marlon Brando in this movie because we can now.
Yeah.
So, but however, I do agree with Gareth Edwards that like it makes sense for Tarkin to be there, and so I was able to like suspend my like distaste of the CGI just for like for story purposes. Like, of course Tarkin would be here, and like, man, this movie makes Tarkin even more of a cold bastard than he is in A New Hope. He just treats like Krennic like crap, and he's just like, yeah, like, oh, you finally built this thing? Well, test it. I bet it doesn't work. The Emperor's like not impressed with your progress. And then they like he shoots Jeddah City, and he's like, oh wow, I owe an apology. This does work. I'm taking command now because you fucked up with Galen Erso.
Yeah,
and it's just and then at the end, he knows Krennic is down there, and he's like, fire on the city. Just do it. And then like Krennic just like watches as his own creation destroys him. Like literally, like talk about choking on your ambition. Like, no, your ambition obliterates you.
Yep.
So I like Tarkin as far as like what he did in this movie. I don't think the effects will hold up a couple of years down the line, but
or right now.
But I was able to suspend it for me. Would you also think, talking about briefly about cameos, Leia and R2 and C-3PO. We were wondering if they'd show up, and they did. So what do you think about those, them popping up in the movie?
R2 and C-3PO, it was like a Stan Lee cameo. Like I wasn't, I always kind of forget that they're going to happen, and I was like, oh yeah, there it is. And it's easy because you can get anybody to be in the costume, basically. I mean, Anthony Daniels, his voice is necessary. You can't get Kenny Baker, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But Leia, I thought that worked better for me because it was so brief. Like there wasn't even really time to watch her say stuff and like move around and talk to other actors. It was just some rebel that was like, "Hey, what did they give you?" And she's like, "Hope," and then it ends. And like, if I had more time to stare at it in like different lighting and like watch her talk, and like I could probably start getting more Uncanny Valley. But yeah, how do you think they did that? Do you think they I mean, for the Tarkin one, they had to get a different actor to stand in and then like completely CGI the face. But for her, do you think that was Carrie Fisher involved in any sense?
I think they might have used her voice, but or asked her to record. Maybe they made her sound younger. But I really feel like they just, I think they did the same thing as Tarkin, and they got an actress to stand there, and then they CGI'd the face a little bit. It's sort of like what they did with Jeff Bridges for Tron, in the 2010, just like even better. God, I want to watch that movie now to see what Jeff Bridges looks like. I guess that movie gets away with it because he's a computer program, so he would look artificial.
Yeah.
But I feel like Hollywood is going to keep trying to do that for, because like Star Wars, it is special in the sense that we have these anthology movies now that we have these characters that would make sense to show up in these like retroactive movies, but you can't get the actors back or they're too old now. So I feel like this is sort of something we're going to have to get used to. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see someone looking young again in like Han Solo or whatever the third anthology movie might be. So it's almost like it's like a necessary evil to me.
Andy Serkis, what if he just motion captured all the people that were dead? Or like Leia, like they just release it behind the scenes of Rogue One and he's just Leia.
Oh my god.
Like doing the voice perfectly without any like voice help at all. Just Hope.
I could see a movie entirely acted by Andy Serkis and mocap. I feel like he's the master at it.
That's going to be his Jungle Book movie, I feel like. I think that's
it's just all him. Every single one. He's also Mowgli.
Cumberbatch is just like his name's on the credits, but it's just Andy Serkis.
Oh my god.
The other thing I was thinking, actually, this is not actually a joke, is now that I know that they're bold enough in these movies to try to reanimate Peter Cushing from the dead, I am pretty certain that it would be easy for them and feasible for them to put Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan aged up in episode 8.
Oh, totally. I mean, like, for one, like all they need to do is like probably give him some more makeup too, because he actually looks a lot like Alec McGuinness. So they almost could get away with it practical, but if they
Alec McGuinness, it's just Alec Guinness.
Oh god,
McGuinness. It's like
Yeah,
their
okay.
Squid
They
Game.
get it. They see they're so similar they combine.
True.
Um they mesh together in my mind. Yeah, Alec Guinness. I feel like they could try to make Ewan McGregor look older, and then if they couldn't get it right, they could CGI his face a little bit to enhance it. I think they kind of did something similar with what's his face in Looper, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, to make him look a little bit more like Bruce Willis. So I think they had the technology now to do that kind of thing. Just sort of jumping around the C3PO R2. While I like that they're in this movie because like that's the tradition that is that they're in every single movie. I feel like having them randomly in Yavin base felt weird. I feel like they haven't. Always thought was always under the impression that they were like on the org D4. I thought they were like assigned there. I thought it would make more sense to see them sort of in the background when like they're handing the plans off to Leia, like like that rebel who's like running by with the thing in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
If he just like kind of walked by R2 and C3PO, and he would have just been like, "My goodness," as they like brush by him or something.
Yeah.
To me, I think that would have been a little bit of a more natural, organic cameo than having them literally just stand there and be like, "Oh, hi, R2, we're in this movie now."
They're just everywhere. They're on Scarif. They're on Jeddah when it gets destroyed, and then they're just in the next scene. They just add them everywhere.
Yeah, what could you imagine if it's just like, we need to transmit the plans, we need a droid to do this. Where can we get a droid? And freaking R2 just rolls up.
Or C3PO does that thing that he did in Force Awakens where he just leans into the camera. I'm here too.
Yeesh. But okay, so
I have a question. I have a question for you, real quick.
Yes.
Do you think that it's a plot hole? I don't know. I only saw the movie once. I need to like understand the story more. Do you think it's a plot hole now that possibly Galen Erso could have just sent the Death Star plans with Bodhi if he was sending him with a message? Or is there a reason why he couldn't send them like that?
Because we wouldn't have a movie. One.
Right. That's always the first explanation.
That's the explanation. But also maybe it's just that like he knew that the plans themselves were on a different planet than him. I mean, that kind of makes sense for security purposes, that like you build the plans over here, but you store them over here, especially, if the guy over there isn't like the most trustworthy. Mm-hmm. So maybe he knew they were locked up. So like he was the one who put them there, and he had control over putting them there, but he couldn't actually like take them himself. So
I feel like Krennic, actually, you made me think about it more. I feel like Krennic probably only, because he knew that Galen didn't really want to do it, he only let him work under very specific circumstances.
Yeah, I feel like they don't explicitly say that, but I feel like that would be the reason.
He didn't even have his own computer login. They logged him in, and then they're like, okay, when you're done, we will log you out.
It's like, yeah, it's probably what it's like working for a government as big as the Empire. So
is it like that working for Facebook? Did you put a weakness inside the system, Alex?
don't play my cover. All right, but yeah. So I guess it's a little bit of a hole, but I feel like it makes sense that they wouldn't give Galen entire access to it because they wouldn't completely trust him. That's
more
my explanation.
Than the previous plot hole of the literal hole that blows up the whole thing.
Yeah, so they filled up the big hole, accidentally dug a small one in the process, but you
take what you can get.
You take what you can get. So speaking of taking what you can get, let's talk about all of our favorite things now. Let's go full positive, full fanboy. So
stoked.
Favorite scene. What was the best moment for you, Jordan?
This is going to be like when you ask someone who their best friend is and they give like 8 answers.
Oh yeah, it's like the MySpace top 8.
Yeah, you don't understand what best means. Okay, favorite scene. I'm gonna do 3. Each one I like probably about the same. I loved. I think you were talking about this too. I loved K2 holding the line at the end. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very touching actually, and really like made his character go the extra mile for me, because we all knew he was going to be funny. We all knew Alan Tudyk was going to bring the comedic stuff, but when he started bringing the drama and like sealed the blast doors and started fighting them off knowing that he was going to get wasted, I was like, this guy is a droid, and like I'm like devastated right now. This is very tragic. And My next one is when they are searching for the plans and they have no way of knowing where it is in that giant database. I love the little like crane thing that they were using to get them. That was cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And he figures out that she knows it's the plans because Galen labeled it Stardust, which is the cute name that he's called her entire life. It kind of reminded me of Interstellar, like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
father giving a message to the daughter that only she will know. Um, and it made their relationship even better after Galen had died. And it was touching. It was good screenwriting. I was like, oh, I see how they planted that beforehand.
Hmm.
And then we're gonna talk about the Vader scene. I'll let you
Oh
talk
yeah,
about that ending Vader scene. But I've been looking more into actually the first Vader scene, and I
Yeah.
am so endlessly fascinated by their decision to give Vader a castle on Mustafar.
Hmm.
And I want to talk about that right now because apparently I've looked this up. They were planning to put a Vader castle in originally A New Hope, and then originally an Empire, and they couldn't ever fit it in naturally into the story. They were like, we want to give him like a fortress, but it's going to feel weird. And in this, they decided to give him that. That scene that we saw in the first teaser, where the Imperial guards are there, and that guy walks in. Turns
Hmm.
out that's just like Vader's gatekeeper, kind of. And
Yeah.
every single day, presumably, when he's not killing all these Jedi, Vader goes to this fortress on the planet where he was maimed and left to die, attempting to heal himself in a back to tank chamber.
Yeah.
Um, and that just, the more I thought about it, the more I said that really enhances Vader in interesting ways, and ties into his redemption arc at the end of Return of the Jedi, because it shows that um, he is still actually trying to make himself heal. He thinks that maybe there's a way that he can turn back into the man he used to be. But it's not working. Every time he goes in the back to tank chamber,
Hmm.
it's not helping him. Um, and then also him choosing to do it on Mustafar is like constantly every single day punishing himself and reminding
Yeah.
himself like, I was Anakin Skywalker, but here is where I was really born as Darth Vader.
Hmm.
And there's all this canon stuff about Vader was the most powerful Jedi because of his pure hatred and his constant agony that he was in inside the suit, the pain of it. Um, and that just ties into it. If you want to make yourself feel constant agony, here's the planet where you choked out your wife and your best friend cut off all your arms and legs and left you to die. Um,
Yeah.
like, and it's just a brief scene. Like these Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and Rebels and all these things are so good about, like, if you're gonna add to the Vader mythology, do it in a very specific, cool way. And
Hmm.
that's that's why I like that scene so much. Had you thought about any of that?
Oh yeah, totally. It took me a while to realize that it was Mustafar. I was just like, oh, he would have like a lava castle. Like that's like lava castle by itself just sounds like the video game villain hideout.
Mario. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So exactly. So like I thought that, but then like I realized, oh shit, that is Mustafar. Like that is like talk about self-flagellation. Like you're right, like self-agony, self-punishing. Like I don't know. Like I was trying to debate, like it's either he's just like he's punishing himself, like reminding himself, like this is who I am now, this is what happened, or it's sort of like trying to own it, like I'm Darth Vader, I can look this in the face, I know this is where these things happen, but I'm the dark side now, I don't care, and to
Hmm.
prove it, I'm gonna live here forever.
It could
Like
be
I'm,
both. It could like
yeah,
Anakin Skywalker could be trying to punish himself, and Darth Vader could be trying to. When Darth Vader says, when Kylo Ren says, "Your son is dead, I killed him," you're like, "Shut the fuck up! You don't actually believe that." When Darth Vader says Anakin Skywalker is dead, I'm like, "Yeah,
mhm.
you literally mean that."
Yeah, it's believable. So you need to read all the Darth Vader line of comics, by the way. It's just ended, and talking about like killing Anakin Skywalker. Oh, the way the comic line ends, genius. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, like the whole like the fact that it was him in the back to tank, and we get to see him being even more vulnerable, and he's always hanging there. I like what you're saying about him, like always trying to like heal himself and not working, setting up his redemption arc. I didn't connect that. That's really good. But yeah, that's kind of like he would like it makes sense. Like I always kind of wondered, like, does he just like hang out in his suit all day? No, he hangs out in his like bath of like Vicodin, or I assume that's what Bacta is. It's just like liquid. It's just like ground up Vicodin that you just kind of bathe in. And so I really like that scene. I really liked this conversation with Krennic. Some people were kind of complaining about his dad joke, but I
What was
thought it
his dad
worked.
joke?
Be careful not to choke on your ambition.
I thought you meant he made a joke about being Luke's dad or something. Yeah,
No,
that is a dad joke.
yeah. Although, like, my girlfriend said, like, I'm surprised he didn't know he had a kid after he made that joke. That reveals everything.
That's really funny.
Yeah. But speaking of Vader, so not to discount K2SO's scene because that's probably my second favorite.
Yeah. Give me your favorite scenes and why.
Oh my god! Just the second Vader scene where like you see the dark hallway, you see all the rebels lining up, and you're like, oh my god, it's about to happen, isn't it? It's about to happen, isn't it? And like it's just zooming in on the dark hallway, and you just see that red lightsaber ignite in his silhouette in the shadows, and he's just standing there, and you're just like, oh my god, this is Vader. This is like this is how the rebellion sees Vader, which is like what I kept like pumping up and talking about in our episodes. Like I want to see like Vader mow people down, and you see it from the rebel perspective, how terrifying he really is. And we got it. Oh my God, was that satisfying. Mm-hmm. He's just like walking down the hall, deflecting lasers with like his lightsaber, and then his hand, he's just like choking people, throwing them up into the ceiling, slashing them, just going through like it's nothing. And he's like stabs that dude through the door as he's like pleading to have the door open. And he hands off the plans at like the last possible second. Oh, I was like I knew it was gonna happen, but I was still like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, are they gonna get it through? Darth Vader's right there. He's coming right there. He's like a force of nature. Oh my god, I loved it. Like that was like worth the ticket price alone. Seeing Vader just mow through all those people. But so yeah, that's my number one. Like of all the scenes I just keep thinking about as I'm going about my day, watching Vader mow down those people, definitely up there. K2SO, his last stand was probably my second favorite. I think his death was the most impacting to me. I feel like, like obviously all of them are sort of sad in their own right, but like since K2SO was like the comic relief, and we were like thinking like, oh, he's a droid, maybe he'll survive and show up in episode 8 and 9.
Yeah, no, they said fuck you to that theory.
God, and like since he's a droid, like he can take multiple hits before he goes down. So like it's one thing to like watch like Donnie Yen get hit with an explosion, or like Baze Malbasi, like he gets shot and he's gone, but like, with K2SO, it was like death by 1,000 cuts almost. Like watching him take, like every time it cut back to him, he had more damage onto him, and you could tell he was like getting shot left and right. And he wanted the blaster for himself, and he finally got it, and he put it to good use.
It was like Boromir kind of going out.
Yeah. It was just like, yeah, exactly, like all the arrows hitting him. So yeah, I feel like for me, oddly, his death was the most satisfying because it was the most poignant. It was the most sort of unexpected for me, and it was the one that was like the most drawn out. And he's just like climb, hits the thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think those are my two favorite scenes. And I love the fight on Scarif, everything involved with it. It looked great, all the sand flying everywhere. So yeah.
Vader, I love the fact that he's never really in a hurry. Because it really like is classic Vader, because he's doing what the Emperor tells him to do, but this is a guy who also used to fight for a republic, and he's only doing that because the Emperor is the only person he knows in his Vader life now, and he's a dog, he gets sent out to do the work.
A dog.
He doesn't really he doesn't feel passionately about it. He's like, I'm going to slaughter this room of people and kill this guy trying to hand off the plans, but I'm not going to try to jog or anything. I'm just going to walk, and like I'll catch up to you eventually. Like it's totally like that. And the fact that they didn't use him earlier in the movie, at first I was like, oh, I would have liked to see him on Scarif or something, but it kind of makes the tension escalate more too, because it shows that they weren't really taking the rebellion threat seriously until the plans got stolen, and then they're like, all right, now we should probably send in Vader. And he's like, you kids just can't get this shit done without me, can you?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, there's a reason why he doesn't show up on Scarif. And that's because he doesn't like sand, because it's rough and it's coarse and it gets everywhere.
I was like, oh, did you read up on something that I didn't hear? Oh.
No. Just making a joke. No, I love what you're. Also, it's interesting you're saying he's a dog, because Leia comments on people holding his leash. So yeah, he really is their attack dog. And I really like that Vader takes his time, both because he wants to and he has to. Like that's sort of the mystique of Vader, that he's such a force of nature. He's so terrified that he can just take his time killing you. But also like he's weak. He's in a life support machine, so that's why he can't like sprint up to you. So I think it's sort of like he's sort of like a contradiction in that way, and that's what makes him all the more interesting to me.
Yeah. All right. So that was favorite. That was what was that? Was that favorite scene or
Yeah, that's
favorite
favorite
line?
scene.
Yeah, favorite scene. Okay. So um I think it's a little bit obvious after that we both put K2SO his
Yeah.
moment into our favorite scene. Um but yeah, let's just talk a little bit more. Favorite character. Would you still say it's him, probably, Alex?
Oh, definitely. It's still him. The comedic timing on like literally everything he says, genius. I know we're gonna talk about favorite lines in a second, but like, did you
Yeah.
know that wasn't me? Like when Jin Erso shoots the other one, looks identical.
Yeah.
That was great. The whole just like I will be by your side always because the captain told me to. It's just like everything he did, and I love that he like picked up the stormtrooper and he like was like chucking it at the other ones.
Mhm.
The way he also like got his hands dirty in the fighting, and so yeah, K2SO definitely my favorite. If I had to pick one other than him, it was probably it's a toss up for me between Cassian Andor and Chirrut.
Mhm.
Obviously, I loved watching Chirrut fight. I loved like his his prayer. Um, I'm one with the force with me. I'm one with the force with me, and like how he like sort of pumps himself up to do stuff like that, and sort of the dichotomy between him and Baze. And but I also really like Cassian. I like we were saying his like how he's sort of like the window into like the grimier part of the rebellion, and he kept surprising me as being like a much darker character than I thought he would be. So I think those are between those three. I keep cycling between which one is like my favorite among them, but it's usually K2. So what
That's
about you?
That's a good sign. I feel like it's a good sign when it's like a hard pick. And I
Yeah.
don't want to give the impression that I didn't like Jin Urso. It's just
Mm-hmm.
she was very much the protagonist, and oftentimes the supporting characters are the ones who are given the more like eclectic traits.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Um,
people love a lot of people like rave about Han Solo. You don't really hear people being like, "Yeah, Luke is so awesome." I mean, it's sort of just like a given. Yeah, he's the hero. He's awesome, but people like rave about the side
yeah,
characters often.
he's like hero protagonist man. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just to like add variety. I'm gonna say I liked Baze a lot. I also loved K2,
Mm.
but I if only because of the eclectic, like what we were just talking about. He brought something completely different that I'd never seen before, which is in Star Wars, having played the games and all those things, we almost only ever see semi-automatic weapons. Like we
Mm-hmm.
almost they fire blasters and they aim them. Baze had heavy machinery that he was just lugging around all the
Yeah.
time, and I was like, oh, that's inconvenient. He's probably just going to be really slow. But especially like when we first see him save Donnie Yen, and
Mm-hmm.
Donnie Yen takes out a horde of them, but then like 8 more come, and it's
Mm.
almost like it auto aimed for him. Like he has
Yeah.
machines that can do that. And then later when there's that confrontation in the rain on the platform where Galen dies, you see him aiming through his scope, just spraying the stormtroopers
Mm-hmm.
coming out of there. I I thought that was really cool, and also just I liked his character. Again, we might have liked to see a little bit more of their backstory, but I felt like a lot of that was also conveyed without dialogue. Like the whole
Mm-hmm.
he's his bodyguard, he didn't believe, but then um, he's also like devastated when he dies, and then that moment where he goes out. A little bit like K2 goes out. There's something really powerful about somebody who knows that they're gonna die and they're killing as many people as they can before they go out. Um,
Yeah.
and then the grenade explodes behind him, and then it cuts. I was like, again, very brutal for a Star Wars movie that we just saw
Mm-hmm.
somebody get killed by a grenade like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really like Baze. Like we're gonna talk about favorite lines in a second. One line I just remembered is when he kind of turns to Jen and he's just like, "Good luck, little sister," and it's like that's sort of like I don't know. It's like very sort of like endearing that he's very like he's a man of few words, but he still kind of like makes those like meaningful connections to people.
Yeah.
Obviously he's really effective, but when Chirrut dies, and obviously he makes that connection to Jin Erso, he makes the connection to like their cause. So I would have liked to see more of him, but like what we did see sort of like it sort of peels back, and then you see that there are layers to his character,
Mhm.
even though like we just sort of thought he'd be like this brute, but he's like he's got multiple sides to him. So I really did like that.
And I don't know if you remember this, but during like last year's Star Wars celebration or something, uh there was a big like leak, or it wasn't a leak, but everyone freaked out because they said he revealed a big spoiler during the
Mm-hmm.
speech, and we talked about you didn't look at what the spoiler was, and I did, unfortunately. Um,
Mm.
and I thought it was a really big deal at the time, but basically he revealed that Donnie Yen's character dies. And
Yeah.
to him, I heard he said that because in his culture, I forget what country he's from, but they're used to performing very old plays like 47 Ronin. I think
Hmm.
that's in that wheelhouse where they've been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and like the plot developments aren't really a mystery. It's everybody knows them. It's just how they do it.
Yeah.
So to him, being in this movie was like, of course, Chirrut dies, and my character has a reaction to it. I'm just going to talk about this in this interview. Uh,
Hmm.
it ended up not mattering as much because everybody died, but
Yeah.
I mean, still, that's interesting.
Yeah.
He
It
died
kind
a
of.
little bit before everybody else. It's like, is it still tragic if somebody gets killed 20 minutes before everybody else does?
Yeah. I never looked into that spoiler, even though I kind of knew that it would probably be about Donnie Yen dying. Like
Mhm.
that makes sense. And then like, but I kind of knew like they're probably all gonna die anyway. So I think it really isn't that big a deal in the long run. And it makes sense that you brought up like the different culture behind like spoilers. And like like if you look at the international trailers for Star Wars, they always reveal a lot more plot than those meant for America or like even Europe. And I think it is just sort of like a different way of how they tell stories. So I
Yeah,
think that's an interesting thing to bring up.
we cling to our plot developments. That him dying was like it was like Superman's dad dying on Krypton when Zod kills him in Man of Steel like 10 minutes before
Yeah.
the planet blows up.
Hmm.
It's like, that's brutal, but also, you're all
Yeah, I
you're all
mean,
dead to
they're all
him.
gonna die anyway. Yeah,
Yeah.
my roommate pointed out that like just sort of as an aside, like they go out of their way to show Jin like rescuing that little girl, and it's like, oh, it's so touching. Like she's like rescues all those people. She has like they go out of their way to show how caring she is. But then they blow up that city anyway. Like that little girl's dead no matter what.
But Jin didn't know that. It's not. She
I
tried.
know.
She gave it her
I
best
know.
shot.
I mean, that's what I said too. It's like, well, it just goes to show how awful the Empire is. That you try and you save people, but it doesn't matter sometimes because it's war. But it is kind of sadly funny that kind of happened that way.
What was the deal with Cassian shooting that guy that wasn't a stormtrooper? What
Oh
happened
yeah. So that guy was about to throw a grenade down at the tank, and Jin was under the tank. She was like taking cover by the tank. So basically,
Oh,
he was killing one of Saw's men to protect Jin, because
okay.
that's how much he doesn't care. He plays by his own rules. He'll shoot another rebel if it means saving his rebel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense. When I was watching it, I was like, is he just a dick? Like, what am I supposed to think
He's just I mean, he is, but like he's a dick with purpose.
A dick with purpose.
Hashtag dick with purpose.
Take that as you will, everybody.
Oh God. Um, okay, so we kept talking about favorite lines. Let's actually discuss that question and not just keep referencing it.
Yeah.
Um, so I've been saying, careful not to choke on your ambition. Did you know what? That wasn't me. So let me pick a third one, my other third favorite. And for me, the funny, like as much as I love K2SO for being the comedic relief, the funniest line in the movie for me was when they put the bag over Chirrut Imwe, and he says, "Seriously, I'm blind." And I wasn't expecting that sort of like self-awareness and him
Yeah.
being like so like joking of like his own condition. But I thought it was like really refreshing, and it was funny. Like whenever like someone takes you to like a secret society to put the bag over your head, and then I've never thought about like what would you do with a blind person.
Yeah.
They still just kind of did it, and he called them out on it, and I thought that was hilarious.
And the best part about that joke was that I didn't expect it. Like, if he hadn't said that, I wouldn't have even noticed. Like, they put a bag over a blind guy's head, because that happens like every movie you ever watch when they take someone somewhere. So
Exactly.
you're right. It was like kind of a self-aware moment.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite line?
I had a lot of the same as you. But we were talking about K2's death scene, and I liked a little while before that when I think Jin probably just tells him that he can have a gun, like or whatever she says, and he just looks at her and says, "Jin Ursa, you continue to surprise me." And I was expecting another smarmy remark, but the fact that it was so like sincere, that was the first moment where I started. It sowed the seeds for me being really teary when K2 dies. The fact that like he notices something about her, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just supposed to be a robot. Like, I just got finished watching Westworld, and even the robots in that don't necessarily make me believe that they have real emotions. But like in in this, it's just this big like armored security droid, and just because of like motion capture and Alan Tudyk and everything, it's like this. There's some depth to him, like some serious depth, like more than I think more than C-3PO, more than R2-D2. It's very like very human moments like that.
Yeah, I really like. I think and I think that's good because it shows like the other side of K2SO. Like a lot, like I know my girlfriend was complaining, like, oh, he's just gonna be a big joker. He's just like the jester of the group. He's gonna be nothing but jokes. And I think that like that does kind of show that there is more sides to him, more layers to him, and that does sort of set it up for being even more poignant when he does go out.
He
So
reminded me, I don't know if you felt this way, he reminded me a little bit of Stewie Griffin in a very good way.
Stewie Griffin, I guess I could see that. He's a little like snarky and super smart.
Yeah, and like and kind of just nihilistic and calling everybody out all the time in his like little in his British accent. Because like we knew he was probably going to be funny, but there's a difference between C-3PO complaining and being nervous and K2SO who was like resigned all the time. He was like very like cynical, which that's a difference. He's not worried. He's just like, yeah, you're all probably gonna die. The chances of us just crashing went up to 60%. Do with that information what you will.
Yeah, it's like, do you know? I love that he's like telling us like, do you know what the chances are of her shooting you are? It's like, no, don't tell me. They're high.
They're high,
very high. Yeah, loved K2SO.
right.
So let's talk a little bit briefly on Easter eggs because I found a couple, but I'm sure there's more. I need to watch this movie like hundreds of times,
Yep.
maybe not hundreds, but tens of times to really like pick up all of it. So let's run through a few of the things that we caught.
So I see that you have the ones that I didn't get, but I noticed the one thing on Scarif when some of the rebels are hiding there and you see stormtroopers walking by and they have a little bit of conversation about the T-15 becoming obsolete, and which obviously sets up in A New Hope when Luke is talking about how he uses his T-16 to bullseye Womp Rats.
Yeah.
And also things I realized later was I mean, I thought it was a little weird how they tried to insert shots from the A New Hope cockpit into the battle above Scarif. I thought that was really like, it looked different to me. But apparently there was a guy who one of the Asian pilots was Red 5 and Luke is Red 5. So apparently this guy gets wasted on Scarif and then they're like, hey, Luke, you're the new Red 5. We need a new Red 5.
Yep.
That's an Easter egg. My favorite one, though, has a tie-in more like to emotional stuff. I thought Jimmy Smits was really good in this movie. Like he had a few key scenes. He's one of the best casting choices in the prequels. I think he has a good gravitas. It's really the way you age up an actor. You just give him the gray streaks.
Just the gray streaks.
It's the Ben Affleck Batman aging kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was his conversation with I think Bail Organa about how they're like, what is your plan? What is your plan like after if we get these plans? What are you gonna do? And he's like, they're asking him about his contact that he has on Tatooine, and he just says something vaguely about like, yeah, I trust him. He served me well during the Clone Wars. I just got really happy. I was like, they're talking about Obi-Wan. I love Obi-Wan.
Yeah. And then there's like that. He has like that quick line, just like, "Who are you gonna send? Like the person you're gonna send to get him? Like you trust them, right?" And he's like, "I trust her with my life." Yeah. And it's like, that's Leia. Although, like, as soon as he said, like, I had to go back to Alderaan, there's part of me that's like, no.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna go round everybody up on Alderaan, make sure they know that things are okay.
Yeah, that things are okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of darkly funny in a way, knowing what happens to him. But yeah, I really like that line about Obi-Wan and about Princess Leia. Some other little things that I caught, like in the very beginning, we see like the Erso house, like the camera, like when they're like packing things up, it zooms in on like their counter, and they just have like a big picture of like the blue milk that Luke and Owen and Aunt Beru are drinking, you know, her famous memeified Star Wars blue milk. So I thought that was funny. And then when they're on when Cassian and Jin are on Jeddah and they're like sort of like walking through the bazaar, they bump into this guy with like a pig nose and the guy with like a bug face, and that either it looks just like them or it is the same people that confront Luke and Ben in the cantina, and it's like, my friend doesn't like you. I don't like you either. You're like, you'll be dead.
Yep.
That guy.
Yep.
So, and like he was also like just as aggressive, just with Cassian bumping into him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a funny little like. There's those people again.
That got a laugh from my audience, and I had a moment of like, that's really funny, but wait, is that too big of a coincidence that he would run into these characters and then into Luke? And then I remembered in A New Hope, Leia sends a droid onto a planet which coincidentally crash lands next to her twin brother. So
Yeah.
Star Wars is full of stuff like that. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, well, plus he says he has a death ward on 12 different systems, so maybe he was getting out of Dodge the second he bumps into Cassian.
That's true. That's very true. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it makes sense that pig-nosed criminal is running around.
Before I forget, because we didn't talk about this, Death Troopers. What did you think of the Death Troopers?
Yeah, Death Troopers. How do we not put these on here?
Yeah.
Well, like I said in the preview, I really liked them. I thought like their garbled voices, like the way they're just walking, their expert precision. I thought they were great. They felt much more intimidating than the average stormtrooper, which was the goal, and they succeeded in that goal. Like watching them fight against like Donnie Yen and Baze Malbus and like those rebels, and just like I'll go pull the switch. Nope, shot, and like like watching them just like so cold and callous, just precision aiming everything. We always joke about stormtroopers not being able to hit anything. They were hitting pretty much all of their marks, I think.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I loved the Death Troopers and their helmets. My God, like I have like a stormtrooper helmet, a Darth Vader helmet. I have a little like Boba Fett helmet of like a cup that I use as like my pencil holder. I need to have a Death Trooper helmet now because that thing's badass.
I was thinking if I were a kid, which in some ways I still am, I would want a lot of Death Trooper stuff after I saw that movie. Like they're in it and lovable more, in my opinion, more than Boba Fett is in the original trilogy. Like they actually come across as being badass in this. Like they have moments, and I like how they're Krennic soldiers. Like he gets to take them where he wants to take them, and when he wants to strong arm his old friend Galen Erso into building the Death Star, he's like, I'm just gonna bring these guys. Let's just walk menacingly across this meadow, and like he'll do what I say because you're scary. And also, you're right. You mentioned when you saw the preview about their voices. When I saw the movie, I'd forgotten you said that, and I was like, wait, are my speakers not loud enough? Am I not able to make out what they're saying to each other? And then I realized I don't think I'm supposed to be able to. I think I'm just supposed to hear this like this really muffled thing that becomes scary because you don't know how they're communicating to one another. It's almost like they're monsters under there. They're
exactly
less like people than stormtroopers are.
Totally. I think that was very intentional with how they did that. And it sounds scary when you hear them talk to each other. Like I don't know if you ever played a Half-Life 2, but they sound like the police in that game, and sort of the same thing, sort of to come across as like inhuman and more monstrous.
It was effective.
It was very effective. I know we talked about Vader a lot. Should we still get into it, or should we move on past that?
Let's see. I think we moved past it. I think I touched on everything.
Okay. Yeah, I think we talked about the lava castle and the richness. Okay. So should we just move on? So we just like start wrapping it up?
Yeah, with the ranking.
8. Okay, cool. All right. Let's resume.
Yes. Do you want me to do it?
Sure. Go ahead.
All right, so Alex, we've talked about some of the bad, but mostly the good, because I think we both agree that that's what this movie is. So now we are going to rank it. How do we feel that Rogue One, having just sat on it for like 2 days, ranks with the other movies, all 7 other Star Wars movies now? Alex, how do you think it ranks for you in the list?
Well, for me, if I have to just like take all 8, that is, I guess 9 if you count Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the movie.
Right.
In that case, I think Rogue One stands at a solid 5. So, for me personally, it's the original trilogy. Like I feel like no matter what they do, you can't get better than those for me. And then Force Awakens, and then Rogue One, and then all the prequels. So, And like that's to me, that's not a bad place at all. Just because of how high up the original trilogy is for me, how high up Force Awakens is for me. I kind of knew going into it that I wouldn't enjoy this as much as the Force Awakens, just because I love the Force and I love the myth storytelling, and this is sort of the opposite of that. And so I respect it for being different, and I think it needed to be different, and I'm glad that it's different. But I still didn't end up enjoying it, so therefore I didn't end up as enjoying it as much as your default Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
But I think even despite all of its choppiness, it's still better than the prequels, and I still enjoy the prequels. So by default, I was going to enjoy Rogue One. I know a lot of people were kind of critiquing this movie. You can even look at our review at the Young Folks right now. I think our reviewer gave it like a 6. I disagree.
Yeah,
I disagree. We're gonna have to bring them online here and duke it out.
Roast them like they do on like CNN. Bring on someone they disagree with.
You contrarian piece of no, no. But I still get where people are coming from. I think if you're not a fan of Star Wars, then the movie kind of feels like a little bit of a messy action movie. I think if you are a fan of Star Wars, this is like a love letter to you, and it still does a lot of the things in Star Wars justice. And so because of that, and like I said, the third act makes up for the first and second for me. So for me, of all 9 Star Wars movies, it ranks as 5 for me.
Your mic it started doing a thing. I wonder if that just got into the Audacity recording, or if it was just it was like it sounds distorted all of a sudden.
Okay. That's weird. It might just be the Google Hangout.
Yeah, it could be. That would be ideal.
Yeah, I hope. I guess we'll find out.
All right. Well, if it does, then it will be easier to edit around because it didn't do that the entire time.
Okay.
I'll just respond to what you said and we'll wrap up.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna agree with your ranking. Actually, I would probably also put it at number 5. But Alex, I was gonna ask you, did you watch the Empire Strikes Back Honest trailer?
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
I feel like that for me, that is a good summation of like why this is at number 5, is because like it's very hard to rank any new movie that comes out in relation to the original trilogy, and for me especially Empire Strikes Back, because it's like the movie you're adding on to in this franchise. Those original movies happen to be a lot of people consider some of the best movies ever made, and they came out in a time where a lot of us we watched them when we were kids, and we have this nostalgia for them, and they're on like legendary status. Like they were the first Star Wars movies to really affect us and touch us personally. And yeah, Rogue One, it didn't do the same thing, but it shouldn't have done the same thing. Like we talked about that a lot. Like Rogue One was supposed to be the Star Wars Battlefront movie, kind of, or the first spinoff to set the precedent that these movies can feel and look and have characters that are very different from the other movies. And if it focused just on Darth Vader and just on like Tarkin and people we've already known and known about, it would just feel like a cheaper imitation rather than something completely different. Loved Force Awakens probably more, but how much of that was because I love Han Solo? I can't tell you. Probably a lot. Probably a huge deal of it was because of the amazingness of having a franchise return after that much time and having the original cast return. So yeah, good, very, very good movie. In a lot of ways, I loved it. I loved a lot of things in it, and it for a standalone movie, it did its job. I was actually talking about this, like it was weird for some people that it didn't have an opening crawl. We talked about this, and it had those tags that came out when you saw new planets and flashbacks and like things that in Star Wars we usually don't see. Any of those techniques. Kind of weird in this movie because it's the first one, but ultimately I think good because it sets a precedent for what future movies can do. If in 10 years they want to make like an R-rated Boba Fett movie set in the Coruscant underground, it would start to get weird if those movies started with opening crawls. You'd be like, what? This is kind of awkward now. So this sets the precedent in, I think, a pretty good way.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I think you hit on something that I was thinking while I was watching Rogue One, and that is like I had the thought just like anything is possible now. Like, and it's so great that we have like, you know, our canon Star Wars movies that are still feel very much like Star Wars, but the, you know, like the possibilities are endless. Now we can go anywhere in the great galaxy far, far away. And I'm so thankful that we can.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's kind of ironic because this movie feels so different from the other movies, but also leads so seamlessly into A New Hope. Like the biggest praise I can give it is after it's over, I was like, I want to watch A New Hope now. I just want to watch it. Like it makes the viewing order very very pleasant now. It's like it feeds right into it.
Mhm.
But and yet it feels more different from A New Hope than Force Awakens did from A New Hope, which is set 30 years later.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Yeah, totally. I think I think that that's mostly the tone of it and like it being a war film, but it is kind of awkward that like, or not awkward, but it is interesting. It's interesting that it feels like such a different creature and yet it blends into A New Hope. So I don't know. I really like this movie. I can't wait to watch it many times in the theaters, like I did for Force Awakens.
Yeah, I was trying to see it in IMAX 3D, and then my theater had like a fire alarm thing went off,
Oh,
so
yeesh.
I didn't get to see it in that format like I wanted. I had to just go see it in standard def, standard movie theater, which was
Hmm.
still fun, but the sound in my theater was a little quiet, and I just want next time I see it, I want to just go balls to the wall and like have the bombastic sounds and score and everything about it. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that wraps us up for our Tosche Station Rogue One Extraordinaire that has been like a year in the making.
Yeah.
It's good to have it under our belt. I'm glad the pressure is a little bit off Force Awakens now because there's another Star Wars movie for people, Star Wars fans, quote unquote, to nitpick and hate for no reason.
Oh yeah. That's
Yeah,
coming.
it will distribute the flack to something else now, and more movies are going to come out, and now episode 8 probably going to have a trailer in January or something.
Mm.
Basically, Tosche Station is in business. We have a lot of stuff to talk about here. Yeah, Alex, is there anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, just that it's crazy that we've been doing this for almost a year now. I remember it was when Force Awakens came out that we wrote like a joint article on the young folks, and that's what spawned the idea to have Tosche Station. So it's crazy they're sort of coming full circle with like a new review of a new Star Wars movie, and I know I'm happy to be doing it. I assume you are as well. And yeah, it's been so great to talk about Star Wars for all this time, and keep listening because we hope to keep going and keep being as excited about Star Wars as we are.
Yeah. All right. Well, check us out on Facebook and always go on the Young Folks and see all the cool articles that are being posted on there, including the review of Rogue One, which we disagree with, but hey, maybe we'll have a little friendly argument there. All right, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. May the Force be with you. Have a great week.
May the Force be with you. You're free to go. We're literally wrapping up. So good. All right. You going to your aunt's house? No, I'm going to Bloomingdale. Oh, right. So okay. All right. Okay. See you in a bit. All right.
All right, man. Good stuff.
All right. Cool. So let me stop this recording here. Hour 17. Not bad. So stop. Okay. So now how do I save this? Save project as is for an Audacity project, not an audio file. For an audio file, export. Okay, cool.
Well, first save the Audacity file just in case something bad happens, and then
Okay, yeah.
export it as an MP3 or whatever, and probably MP3 because if you did a WAV file, it would be humongous.
Yeah. Okay. So Audacity project. Save. And then okay, where is export? Okay, here it is. Export audio.
We're also in no rush if you wanted to like do this whenever.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. So MP3 files. And then quality. Insane. Insane quality. What kind of quality bit rate variable speed should I do for this?
I would just do whatever it defaults to.
Okay. All right. Standard. Okay, cool. Save that. Where? Also desktop. Cool. Oh, whoa.
And then Gmail it to me. It'll probably send it to me in a Google Drive thing because it'll be a pretty big file.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully once I edit it and stuff, it'll sound like we could maybe possibly be in the same room.
Yeah, cannot open MP3 encoding library. What? Okay. All right, I'll have to finagle this a little bit. Or wait, if I send you the Audacity project file, will you be able to open it? Or
that's probably not for the best because I don't have
okay.
Audacity on this computer, and also those files, those raw files from digital audio workstations like Audacity will be even bigger than if you just exported it. So
all right, well then I'll figure it out on my own. I'll get it to be an MP3 at some point.
Just text me and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we should try to get it up soon-ish because everyone's all hyped on Rogue One right now. But yeah, whenever you have time, like today or whatever.
Yeah, I'm free today, so I'll probably figure it out at some point.
Cool. Tell Yasmin sorry I stole you away for a long period of time.
No, it's okay. We didn't have any plans today.
Okay.
All right. Go on. Cool. Good recording. Have a good one.
Good stuff. All right.
Catch you later.